Everybody, welcome to Javo's Garage. I want to help you today change your oil pan gasket. Now, I'm working on today, it happens to be a 2005 Ford Freestar with a 3.9 liter motor. However, this repair is going to help you if you have a 2004 to 2007 Mercury Monterey, as well as a 2004 to 2007 with a Ford Freestar with the 3.9 and 4.2 liter motors. I believe I'm even going to help you if you got a 2003 Ford Windstar with the 3.8 liter. Maybe a little bit different, but it does use the same oil pan, so I think we can help you out. So I'm going to go through, show you how to do this step by step. This is normally a pretty expensive repair, not so much for the parts, but for the labor that's involved to get to the goofy part. So I'm going to go through, show you how to do it. I think I spent around $50 for this. You can buy the oil pan gasket kit at your local advanced store. I paid $15. Then I bought a oil change kit that had the filter and the oil as well. And then you have to get some brake cleaner so you can do that. Maybe some brushes so you can clean some other stuff off. Otherwise, you should be around $50 to be able to get this repair done. So I think if you follow this step by step, I'm going to save you and your family a boatload of money and get that van back up and on the road. So without any further ado, let's get going. Come on now. One of the first things we're going to want to do is get this starter taken out. It's gonna have to get out of the way. So you're gonna have one bolt located right here on the bottom of your starter. It's got to come out. And then your other bolt is located up here. You have your ground connected to it there. So we're gonna have to take the ground off there and then go ahead and pull that bolt out. All right, step one. Let's go ahead and disconnect our battery. That down. There. It's kind of stuck on there, but there we go. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect positive side as well. I don't have to worry about any issues whatsoever. So go ahead and get this put on. By the way, this here is a number 10. So you'll need either a number 10 ratchet or a number 10 socket. Get those disconnected. Both of these are on here pretty good. This is a newer battery, but she's stuck. And so there we go. So now we're down below. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this little cap off here. Got a little mini pry bar that makes this job go easier. There we go. Have a new respect for guys that video all this stuff. This is a lot of fun to do one-handed while you're holding the camera. So there we go. That looks like it's a 13 to me. So let me go grab a 13 socket. We'll get that disconnected, and then we should be able to drop that out of the way. We also need to disconnect our signal wire here as well. That's also a 10. So we'll get those two off. That way our starter's completely disconnected. Went ahead, disconnected the signal wire there. I just go ahead when I can, something like that, I'll just put the nut back on there. Then I don't have to keep track of parts, and I don't lose parts, and I hate having to spend a half hour trying to find a nut or a bolt that I dropped somewhere. So if I put it back on like that, you know what, I don't have to worry about it anymore. So I'm going to go ahead, if I can get my socket up in there on it. There we go. Got that loosened off. Reach up in there. Pull that off. Set this nut down so I don't drop it. And there we go. So, now I got that off. Let me move our light a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and reach up in here. Just put that nut back on. Make sure they're just on. Don't have to tighten them, just enough to hold them. So there. Now we're disconnected there. So we're going to go ahead and get this out. I got to be honest with you. I went ahead and played with it a little bit. Wanted to see what would work. I couldn't get a ratchet to work in this particular case because the problem I ran into, there's not enough space between this cross member and this line here to get your ratchet to come out through here and have enough space to twist it. So what made it easier for me is I just took my good old number 15 here got it up on there. Trying to do this while looking at my screen, so it makes it difficult. And then I just went ahead and gave it a pull, like so. See if I can't do it so you can see. Got it up on there, and there we go. So got it loose now. There we go. Now reach in here, get this disconnected. Drop that, luckily, I'll find it. So, now we're disconnected there. So now we're gonna get that stud out of there that's holding the starter in on the top. Now that first nut that holds the ground in is a 15. The stud is actually a 13. I did the same thing again. I took two hands, so I couldn't do it. So I used my wrench, got up in there, loosened it up a bit. Now I'm able to reach up in here like so. Let's see if we can do it by hand now, save some time. Yeah, she's still a little stiff, but it's gonna come out. There we go. So now we're down underneath. This one here is a little bit easier to get to. Should be able to get a ratchet on it just fine. Quick edit there to get a better tool for the job. I love this electric ratchet wrench from Milwaukee. This is my favorite tool. Make sure the starter's not falling down yet. No, we're good. Normally, if I wasn't holding a camera, I would have my other hand on the starter. So now we're disconnected there. Let's reach up here, see if we can pop it loose. I need to get a second hand up in here. And let me get that out, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. Got the starter out. It does fit down through the bottom here. Takes a little wiggling it around, but it wasn't bad. It took me about 30 seconds to pop it out of there, so it's good. What I wanted to do before I move forward with this was just to verify that we are dealing with an oil pan leak and not a rear main seal leak, just out of curiosity. And so I went ahead and did a look up in there, as you can see. Flywheel's nice and dry. The other thing we're going to have to do is get this exhaust that runs through here. Sorry it's so close, but I only have so much height here. This is going to need to come out of the way. So this O2 sensor is going to have to come out. I'm going to spray some penetrant on those two bolts that you'll see right there. Sorry. And so those two are going to have to come out. Then you also have, up over here, you have another O2 sensor right here. And the plug is right up there. And rather than trying to pull that O2 sensor out, I think it's much easier to just unplug that. You should be able to drop this down. You've got pretty good clearance there. You can take that down. So we have those two bolts, and then there's two more that are going to be up here. See if I can get a light on it for you. There's one. Sorry, I got one of these lights with a magnet sticking to the side. And there's your second one right there. So those two are going to have to come out. I think I'm going to try and leave that O2 sensor in if I can, and just drop that out. I'm gonna have to trace where that plug goes, and I don't know if you can see it. So it's coming out of there and it's plugging in. There's a little white plug, hopefully you can see it right there, and it's up there. So I'm gonna try and get to that and unplug it if need be. No big deal. I can pull that O2 sensor out. Got another O2 sensor back here, and it just goes and plugs in right there. So we can go ahead and unplug that. Last bolts for this exhaust are gonna be back here. And you got one located here and one located over there. So my thought here is we'll get those out, and then we'll go ahead and drop this down. This is not supported up above, as you can see, so we can go ahead, and once we unbolt those, we should be able to get this part down. I'm going to take on the next step. When you're going to take out these O2 sensors like this, best thing you can do, get yourself an O2 sensor socket. It'll slide up on that thing. It'll save you a ton of
time. I picked this one up here from Advanced. This one here is a 7/8 and 22, it says. You can see it hopefully right there. And got the opening, so basically you just slide your wires over it like so. See if we can move it so you can watch, and then this will just come up here and then it'll lock on. And you can put your ratchet in here and try and bust it loose. Now I haven't sprayed this down. Odds are I'm wishful thinking that this is just going to pop out, but I'm going to have to put this down for a minute so I have both hands, and I'm going to give it a try and see, just to give you an idea. Here's the starter where we took out, so this one's here, and then right up here, ta-da, that's where it's plugged in. I can't do it one-handed and holding the camera, but what I like to use, that one's been kind of stuck, so I have one of these little tools like this, just a little pry bar. I'm going to put that up in there, press down on that tab right up here, and then I can use that to pull it out. Well, you know what? You take good fortune when you can get it. Actually, it didn't take a whole awful lot of effort at all. Gave it maybe one grunt, maybe two, and she popped loose. So I can go ahead and just unthread this out of here. And then that way I don't have to worry about banging my O2 sensor when I'm pulling it out. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way, and then we'll move on to the next O2 sensor. So next we're going to tackle this sensor. I'm going to try and take this out. We got plenty of room in here to be able to fit this out, so I'm not going to go ahead and try and pull this particular sensor out. What I'm going to do is go up here, and I'm going to just unplug it right here. See if I can't do it while we're... Oh, see? There we go. So we got that unplugged. The sensor is now free, and it won't be an issue for us. So then... we only have one more sensor, finally, and it's a fun one, because it is buried right, see if I can't get a little light, there we go, and it's buried right there, and you'll see that, that's on the back side of the motor. It's down, oh, sorry, I forgot, I also got one more O2 sensor right here, there we go, so we got that one disconnected, and this O2 sensor's free. So I'm going to try and trace that down. I don't know if it lights up good enough. Oh, there you can kind of see it. Sorry, my shop light's kind of... there it is, right there. So I went ahead and got these bolts sprayed down with some spray. I'm trying out for the first time. I'm trying this WD-40 stuff. I normally use PB Blaster. I know everybody has their thing they like, but... man, the PB Blaster has just such a horrible smell. About makes you sick just using it while you're under here. Actually, this WD-40 has a nicer, almost smells like lemon pledge if I was to give it a description. So anyway, so I got that. Those are sprayed down good. Let's see, we're up in here. We got these sprayed down real good. See if we can see it. There we go. And then we got these back here sprayed real good. So I need to do a few other things on the car. I'm going to give that like 5-10 minutes, give it a chance to kind of set up in there and see if it'll help at all. And then I'm going to find my socket for it and hop up in there. Those look like they're 15 to me, but I'll let you know for sure here once I throw a socket on there and get my impact out. I think that'll help. And let's get this exhaust out of our way. Okay, we're stepping forward here a bit. I got all the bolts out. I gotta say, I don't know if it was that new WD-40 spray or I just got lucky, because I've never had exhaust bolts come out as easy as these did. I ended up using my air impact on it, but I mean, they popped right out. I can't believe how easy they were. But let it soak for like 10 minutes, and then I started hitting them. These up here, these nuts here were a 15, by the way. I got those done. I ended up using a just a long extension. There it is right there. And was able to reach up in there and get those two. Came right out. Absolutely no issues. These here, there we go, were a bit more fun to get to. I ended up having to use a universal joint to just get around that O2 sensor. But once again, both of these just came right out, no problems whatsoever. These nuts were also a 15. Got these popped out, no problem on these as well. These are bolts. These bolts are a 13 though, so you're gonna need a 13 impact on those. The only thing I need to do yet is this one last bolt here that has the hanger here for the exhaust, and once we get that out, we'll be able to pull this whole cat system out of the way and get this out of the way, and let's get on to the oil pan. So, got that out. That was pretty easy. And now we got lots of room in here to be able to get to our pan, no problems whatsoever. Piece of cake. I know another way you could do it would be to loosen the motor mounts and raise the motor, and I just thought this was easier for me in my application. So before we can start taking those bolts out up along the top that are holding in the pan, we have a few more. Let's see, we got one right here. It's connected to your bell housing over there. Got another one. Hopefully you can see that one right there. And then we got one more right up here. So once we get those three out, then we can start taking out all the bolts all the way around the pan. And then we can go ahead and drop this pan out of the way. One thing you probably noticed, I haven't drained the oil out of it yet. I had to move the car to get it here in position. And so I wanted to, two things. I didn't want the drain pan in my way as I was working. And number two, I wanted to give it a chance to let all that oil kind of just drain and get down into the pan. Because once you pull this pan out, nothing's more irritating when you're trying to get under there and clean it and get it ready for your new seal, and you have oil dripping down on you the entire time or on your seals. And so I like to just let it sit for a bit, let that all get down in the pan so it's not dripping everywhere, and it'll just make a nice cleaner job. So let's go ahead and get these three bolts taken out of here, and we can go ahead and get the pan dropped at that time. All right, time to drain the oil out of this thing. And that is your drain bolt back here. Where are we at? There we are, right there. And that is a 15. And I went ahead and already knocked that loose. I had to get my longer breaker out. Apparently somebody found it necessary to use an impact or something to put that darn thing on there. But got it out. Now I'm excited. I just picked this up. This here's my new tool I got from OTC. Part number 5911A. It's a drain plug removal tool. This here's got a magnet on it. So once you get it loose, this will lock up on that bolt. And then you can twist it, get the bolt out of the way without getting your hands covered in oil. I know that sounds like a funny little thing, but when you do enough of these, you get tired of having oil running down your arm. So I've got it loose a little bit, so all we do, that's connected on there like that. See, it's kind of hanging there. I got my bucket in place. And now, all you do, you just twist it like so. And the idea here is, when that comes out, it's going to hold on to the bolt. It's going to hold on to the drain plug. There we go. If you want to be technical. And, sorry, I'm trying to do this one-handed by looking through my phone, or this would go much faster. Maybe if we need to go like this. Let's try a different angle. There we go. And then, like so, it's starting to come out. Sorry. It isn't that nice. So there is my drain plug. And look at there. No oil on my hand. So we'll go ahead and let that drain out for a few. And let's get these bolts out of this pan and drop this baby. Alright, we got the oil drained out. And we're ready to start taking this pan out. So there are 17 bolts that are all around the pan here. These are a number 8, by the way. And so you'll need to get those out. You're going to need an extension. You got one way down up in there. Got another one. Oops, sorry. let's see, we got the light, there we go, down in there. You can kind of see it from that angle too, it's right there. And they just kind of go all the way around, just like that. So next, get your number 8 socket out, get yourself an extension, and get these pulled out. Got all the 17 bolts out, all the way around. And let's see here, my creeper's getting stuck. Here we go. So we got all those taken out all the way around. And don't forget these two back up in here. By the way, these two, when you get all your bolts out and you put them in a pan, these two that go in the back are longer than the other 15. So when you go to put them all back in and you notice you have 2 longer ones, that's what they're for. Now, as you would expect, this thing is stuck on there good. I tried to move it by hand, it ain't budging. I figured it would. So at this point, what you'll do, and I have my rubber mallet out here. Unfortunately, I can't do this all one-handed with a camera and holding the light. So you're just gonna take a rubber mallet and give it a few taps on there, and hopefully that thing will come right off for you, and all you gotta do is take it out. Finally got it off of there, and ready to clean it all up, put it back together again. Ain't gonna lie, getting that off was not a lot of fun. I had to beat on it for a little while, but fight the urge to take a pry bar or a scraper or something and shove it up in there between the pan and the block. You don't want to do that. You score that, you're gonna have oil leaks, and you've gone too far and done too much work to mess it up now. Do the job and do it right the first time and be done with it is my motto. So took, I don't know, probably 5 minutes of just whacking on it and moving around a bit, and it started to come loose and working it. One thing I did learn, and it came out as you can see, but you want to make the job a little easier, take out your oil filter first. But that's okay. It's all good. So everything is out. Actually, everything looks good up in there too. Nice and clean, and nice car. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean off these surfaces over here, and I just have a little brush I'll use on there and a razor blade. First scrape all that off, and then just take a wire brush and clean it off, and then I'll take some brake cleaner and clean out around those edges. And then once I get that done, then I use some alcohol on a cotton ball, and put on a set of hemos is what I usually do, and then I'll run that around it again, just to make sure I got it free from all oil and that it's nice and smooth and clean, and then go ahead and reinstall it. But I'll clean it up a little bit more here, and then I'll come back to you, and we'll put this pan back on, button this thing back up, okay? So I got the pan cleaned out. Basically what I ended up doing, it's a lot of fun getting the RTV out of this thing, and you have to make sure and get it out of all these little grooves in here. You can see I got this one done pretty well. It's gonna take a lot of elbow grease. I basically got these brushes. I get these at Harbor Freight. They like to snap right in here, but for $2 for a set, it is what it is. So I used this brush. I got one of these, comes in the kit as well. Just went around it, cleaned it out really well. I had a hard time getting it out of inside of these grooves, so I just used a little screwdriver like this one and basically put it down inside of there, scraped that out, got that done. Used just flat razor blade scraper, used that to get it off the top. Did that really well, got it done the best I could. One of the things I ran into is you get a lot of RTV that gets stuck down inside of these holes where your bolts are going to go up through, your mounting bolts. So what I ended up doing was I found a drill bit, and this one is a 1/4 inch, and I did it by hand. You don't want to use like your drill and do this because you don't want to round out these holes, but I just did it by hand and kind of just ran them through there and worked it, cleaned them out a bit, and then got those out the best I could, and they're ready to go. Over here I kind of just have my tools laid out. Got my bolts cleaned up, my mounting bolts up there. I got the two that go here in the back over here. Sorry, I'm looking through my phone again. And so we're good to go there. I also got my inspection plates. They're all nice and cleaned up. They're ready to go. Um, One of the things that helps me do that in terms of getting these bolts clean, getting these clean, is a few years ago I picked up one of these at Harbor Freight. It's funny, it's just a little ultrasonic cleaner. And this poor thing, I've used it to death. I've had it about 3 years, but it does great for cleaning stuff like this. I also use it to clean my tools. It heats, it does good. I just put some Dawn in there. We get this like at the dollar store. I'll just put a boatload of Dawn in there and some hot water, turn it on, and you would be amazed at how well your tools come out. This thing was absolutely filthy dirty, and as was my scraper, as you can imagine if you're doing this when I got done, and they look great now. So these are all cleaned up, ready to go. I have these hemos set up here. I put a cotton ball in there because what I'm going to do is underneath where this oil pan's going to attach, what I'll do is I actually dip that in some alcohol here, and then I'll rub that around the sides just as like a final prep to make sure I got all the oil and that off of there, so that once I get this put on, I'm not going to have any leaks. I don't like to have issues. I also just use some brake cleaner. I got this here at CarQuest. You can get it any parts place. And I use that to clean up underneath. I've also got my silicone ready to go. Picked up my gasket for my cat system. Got my new seal that goes there in the back. So we're good to go. Let's crawl underneath and let me show you what we did there. I got this all cleaned out. Now naturally before I put the pan on, I'm gonna have to go back one more time and wipe these down with a towel where it likes to drip. I can tell you it likes to drip out in here. While you're doing the work, you'll get drips naturally from your pickup. I was getting drips here and here. It's gonna drip everywhere, but those were the big parts. But I got that all cleaned off all the way around. Once again, I just use that stainless brush. Let me get some more light here so we can see. And got that all nice and cleaned out, so we're ready to go. This back seal here, to get that rubber seal out, what worked best for me was I just used one of my pick sets and got in there underneath it, and was able to eventually work it and get it out of there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's just a small indent down right in there and right there. And so I had to work that out. You know, I had to use some picks and a little straight screwdriver. Took a little time, but I got those cleaned out and those are ready to go. When you put that new seal in, before you do that, you're going to want to put a little dab RTV down in those so that you don't get any leaks coming out of there as well. And so that's where those are. One thing I'd also mention that you're going to want to do, and I had this issue and I probably had to spend 20 minutes cleaning that, and that is inside all these holes where your bolts are going to go in, because you're using an RTV for your gasket, and they did before, you get some of that silicone down in some of those holes, and if you don't get that out, it can really mess up when you go and put these bolts back in, because you're going to think that you have it torqued right when you really don't, because basically you're hitting silicone. So I had to go through and clean all those out. I used a pick and just went through and got them all cleaned, and it took some time. I probably spent 20 minutes going through and getting all the silicone out of those. And you should be able to take the small bolts when you're done and run those in there, and they should go, you should be able to seat them all the way down. If you can do that, then you got it cleaned out enough and you're good. You don't have to worry about having any kind of interference. I had about 5 or 6 of those where it would go maybe halfway down in there. So I had to get my pick and clean them all out, but I did that, got that done. So it looks like we're really good here. This is all nice and clean. We should have a real nice clean surface and have a good seal, and that way this thing's not going to leak anymore. We'll do it once and do it right, and then we'll be done with it. Got our new seal put in. It's installed here. we got our little dabs of silicone there and back over there. So that part's in. Let's go and get the silicone put on our pan and get it put back in place. So we got our silicone on. In the end, this stuff that comes with your gasket, I didn't like it at all. It wasn't going on real smooth. You can see over here it's kind of globby, and I had to mess with it with my finger to try and level it out. And this stuff, if they gave you a tip, it would be great. But other than that, this stuff's garbage. Get rid of it. I went over, grabbed my Permatex that's actually got a tube on it, and it's just so much better. You can see the difference. But we got it all set. We're good to go now. Get yourself some Permatex while you're there. Throw their stuff away or keep it for another job that you don't want it to look quite as nice. So we're ready to go ahead and install this pan now. So we're going off the Haynes manual. This here is your tightening sequence for your oil pan bolts. This here being the front of your motor, which would be your right hand side or passenger side for some of you all that don't know. This here would be your driver's side or left-hand side. These two here, 1 and 2, these are your longer bolts. When you're putting the pan on, you'll see that that part of the pan is raised up a bit, so it does require the longer bolts. So this here is your tightening sequence that you'll do them with. So basically, you're just going to start at the back, if you will, and you're going to work your way side to side and get those put in. And by the way, you're going to tighten those to 18 foot-pounds. Oil pan is in. We got those all tightened down. We got our bolts tightened down, 18 foot-pounds on those all the way around. Don't forget, start at the back and forth, and then you'll work your way back and forth until you get around to the front. So be happy, you're on the downhill side. The hard part's over, so now it's time to start putting things back together. I'm going to go ahead and put our oil filter back in. Let's move our light so we can see. There we go. So while we're all open, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall our oil filter. Don't forget to lube your seal there with some fresh new oil. And that just goes back on like so. Nice new filter. I'm gonna let this end up sitting for at least 8 hours before I'm even gonna try and start it. Now I know you guys may have a different situation, but I'm not in a big rush. I want to give that Permatex plenty of time to seat. So I'll give that a little bit more of a snug when I'm done here. Now, once you're done with that, this is just my order. I'm gonna go. We need to put back the oil pan to transaxle bolts. We got one up here. This here's your front again. You got one here. You're gonna have one back up here that goes in. And then your other one, let's move our light again. And we lost our light. There we go. And your other one's gonna go right up here. These go in at 33 foot-pounds. Just wanted to show you, by the way, if you'll notice, I have 3 bolts here. These are the oil pan to transaxle bolts. 2 of those are the same. You'll see one has the taller head there, the one on the right. That bolt goes back up towards the front. So here's your oil filter straight across. That bolt goes in there, and the other 2 bolts go towards the back. Now we want to put on the inspection plate cover. Yeah, it's a 2-piece cover. So we have this piece here, which naturally goes over here on the starter side. And then you have this piece here. It's going to go on towards the rear of the vehicle. Now, when you go to start putting this back in there, don't panic and start calling me bad names because you think I messed something up, because, well, quite frankly, I did too. So what happens is you think when you see these bolt holes that maybe that should have lined up with one of these. Not so much on this side, because you can easily tell it lines up with the 3 at the starter, but on this plate, I was really concerned that this hole should have gone right up in here, and it does not. if you look back up in here, you'll have a bolt. There it is right there up above. So that one is for this hole here, okay, on the top. And then this hole, which is right here, will go right there. And it will slide up in there, and then you just tighten those up. Those are an 8, and you'll tighten those down. This one on this side where the starter is, you don't tighten anything down on it because your starter bolts are going to hold it in place. First side of the inspection plate, that's the rear side is in. We got that attached. Now the starter side one, what you're going to have to do, let's see if I can do this one-handed. You're going to have to feed it up through the top. By the way, see how this has like that little lip indentation? That is going to go behind that lip, which is sticking up. Let's see if we can't do this one-handed here. So once you get it lined up, see, they're going to interlock down about like that. And then you'll be able to put your starter in. So for now, that's just going to sit there. And that part's done and ready for installation. Next, we're going to start putting our exhaust back in. So before I put this all back in, I just wanted to show you, this here is the back end of the torque converter where it would actually connect to the flex pipe, and you can see that gasket is absolutely shot. So I'm going to get a scraper and we're going to clean that off. When you're doing this, just go ahead and get a new gasket. I got a new one right here. Pick this up at Advance. Here we go. I believe it's part number 31532, but hopefully you can see that. That's a little bit closer. I got that from Advance. But that just will replace that one right there. And that gasket, I don't know if you can see there, it's just shot. Got the exhaust reinstalled. Can't lie to you, that was not a lot of fun. That was probably the worst part of the whole job. Probably took me half hour, 45 minutes to get it all lined up. In the end, what I ended up doing that made a world of difference was I just used my floor jack, and I ended up having to put it kind of over here on this pipe. I tried to do it over here. Let's see, here we go, on here. But the problem I ran into was it would twist the pipe, and I just couldn't get it lined up. And this thing weighs, a good 40, 50 pounds at least. And I tried to do it at first without any assistance. And if you have somebody with you, I bet it would go in pretty quick, but I didn't, so I fought it for about 15-20 minutes, and I gave up on that. Got my floor jack, put that under there, got that all put back up, and that's all done. So now we're ready to go ahead and start reattaching all of our O2 sensors, and then put the starter in, and then this job will be done.
So at this point, your job's pretty much done. So all you have to do is put your exhaust bolts back in now. Make sure you get them good and tight. Make sure you get your gasket put back in there, and do a good job on that because you don't want to have any leaks getting out, as well as go through and plug in all your O2 sensors again and make sure they're all connected good. And then all you have to do is reinstall your starter. Don't forget you have that stud that sticks out through on your driver's side or left-hand side. Make sure and put the ground wire back on there, and then hook up your cables, your signal wire and your power cable that go down to your starter on the other side. Put in your other bolt and then reconnect your power. Now I have to apologize because I know I took video of me doing all that, and for whatever reason it is not with the files and I can't seem to find it, so you're stuck with me giving you this. Now the good news is though that it's pretty much easy. It's reversal of what you did to take it out. You should be able to figure that out. If you have any questions, just shoot them a question down below here and I'll be happy to answer it for you. Hey, I hope this video has been helpful for you. If it has, please hit that like button for me if you would. And if you want to see more of these in the future, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.